Mouths, the podcast for MotoGP, motorsports, and more. My name is Zoe, and call me Jorge Martin because I gotta go to the pit.
My name is also Zoe, and I was also going to make a pit joke, but now that's too many pit jokes in 2 weeks.
I finished watching the pit. It was so good. It was so good. I'm a big medical person, and so is
Jorge Martin.
Martin.
Oh, God, it's so sad.
Not to talk about Jorge Martin for 2 minutes at the top of the pod, every pod, but
How can we not?
I feel really bad.
I was thinking about our episode from last week, and I was thinking about you saying, wouldn't it be crazy if he crashes again? And I remember I said something like, you know what, like, I get why you say that, but I'm kind of bored of him having a bad run of it. That's what happened.
You said maybe he can have a little low side as a treat. And
he had a high side at over 100 kilometers an hour.
So at least we didn't curse him like that badly.
Well, he broke 6 ribs.
Jesus Christ.
And apparently collapsed a lung.
Which, because of the pit, we know is called a pneumothorax.
Thanks, Dr. Robbie.
Thanks, Dr. Robbie, Trauma Daddy.
But yeah, just like insane.
This is depressing.
It's just sad.
Did he re-break any of the previous broken bones? Or is it just the ribs?
Not that I know of. Well, here's the thing. Most of them probably weren't healed.
Oh, that's so true.
Because it's bone, and it's been maybe 2 months.
What's he going to do?
Well, he's going to be in the ICU for the next 4 days. So that's his immediate future planned.
And then probably the incubator after that.
Back to the fish pod. I don't know. I really don't know when we're going to see him back. Probably not till the end of the season.
I would just take the season off at this point.
At this point, yes.
You have been cursed by some dark god.
Yeah.
Carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain like the goats to appease whatever dark forces are at play, and then come back next season, and hopefully it'll be better.
Well, and then to make it even worse, MotoGP should have red flagged that race. Because he was getting worked on by medics and by marshals on the corner.
Yeah.
So if someone had had a low side and like slid out on that, because it's a high-speed corner, they all could have been hit. It's horrifying.
It sucks so hard, dude.
When that's the thing, it's not fun. Like,
no.
I say this fully as a Jorge Martin not enjoyer. It's not fun to like watch the athlete and the team that you essentially like spite watch.
Yeah, you can't even hate watch.
Yeah, like there's no fun in that for me as a viewer. And I imagine on some level as a competitor, you're kind of like, yeah, I do kind of want to prove my medal against the reigning world champion. Like that would be nice.
I'm not saying that he should have not taken the number 1 at the beginning of the season, like I said on our like very first episode, but
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. Maybe you should be a little stitious, Jorge Martin.
Just a little.
I think you can go full superstitious. Go full Sidney Crosby.
Full stitious, yep. But other than like a really horrible end to the weekend for Jorge Martin, other than that, it was a really cool race. Like, I'll say it.
It was. It was a really fun race to watch.
This was, I think, my favorite race I've watched since I've been watching MotoGP live. And I mean that even beyond like the front. I think it was a great race across the entire running field.
There was just a lot of characters that popped up.
It was like when a TV show like actually knows what to do with their ensemble cast.
So true. Yes. Like the pit.
Like the pit.
It was like, oh, hey, Zarco, you're here again.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you since Argentina.
You know who was actually like a C level like cast member of this weekend?
Who?
Johan Mir's gastroenteritis.
Yeah, his stomach hurt.
Yeah, he did have some tummy issues this weekend, and nobody stopped talking about it. It was gastroenteritis this and gastroenteritis that.
My nightmare. You can't
Truly.
stop shitting and everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, and it's being broadcast to the entire world. And you're a MotoGP world champion named Johan Mir, and everyone forgets that.
Because your stomach stay hurting.
So let's actually talk about the race.
Do we want to start with our predictions from last week?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I said P3, Marco Bezzecchi, P2, Pecco Bagnaia, P1, Alex Marquez, Fail King, Marc Marquez. And then you said P3, Frankie Morbidelli, P2, Pecco Bagnaia. P1, Marc Marquez. For Fail King, Fabio Di Giannantonio.
Like, kind of a full house.
Kind of a full house.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You did a really good job this week.
The universe said, you know what? Why not?
Yeah, like, let's knock it out of the park.
I want to be so clear about how crazy this is, that full house. Didn't I also say Pecco was going to be a little bit of a fail king?
No, you said Marc was going to be a little bit of a fail king, and I took that away from you because I thought it was silly.
That was silly.
You said he was going to fail in the sprint and then win on Sunday, and I said that does not qualify you for fail king.
Okay.
And he did either. It was a really dominant weekend. In the race, especially, like, I think he's having fun with it. I think he's playing with us. I think he's,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
He's having fun with it now. He is his little, like, puppet master controlling everything. And, like, I mean, there's so much to talk about this weekend, but the sass that this man delivered the whole weekend, he was on another level. He was like RuPaul's Drag Race levels of reading this week.
He was truly gremlin-ing it up the whole weekend.
Whole week.
So here's my Marc psyche investigative breakdown. Coda sucked so bad. He wanted to win that race so bad. He pulled out his cunty little, like, run off the grid at the last second maneuver. And then he kind of fucked up his lines, fucked it. I think he came into this weekend knowing that he either had to have an incredibly dominant weekend or he had to have a strong weekend nonetheless. Those were his options to kind of pull momentum back into his corner. Not just with Pecco, but with himself. I think that is like a big part of it. And so what Marc did for a lot of this weekend was just straight up lie.
Yeah, which he loves to do.
Loves that. He loves that. But he was lying so much all weekend. And the second he stopped lying was after the race on Sunday. So before the weekend started, he basically said, historically, Alex and Pecco are better at this track. I've always known coming to this track, I would most likely have to be on defense. This is a lie.
Like a liar.
This is a lie. We know that Pecco and Marc have each won once here.
Mm-hmm.
As we discussed last week, Marc's been here on the podium 5 times, Pecco only once. The reason that Marc feels less confident at this track, or historically people think he's not as great at it, is because it's a free-flowing, very fast-paced, consistently throughout the whole track kind of race. The Honda, during the time that Marc was on it, did better with stop-and-go tracks. That's why he is the king of Coda. And I think that is also, to put a pin in that, I think there's a reason that's why Coda hasn't been great for him since he's been on a Ducati. So Marc knew that's a lie. I fully believe he knew what he was saying when he did that. So what ended up happening is he ran his strategy for the weekend like the goddamn Navy, kept his mouth shut on the truth, and then proceeded to dominate the entire field. It was one of those shows of forces that is pretty undeniable.
He's him.
He's him. What was really interesting is listening to him at the post-race press conference on Sunday. Someone asked him, Marc, why do we always get great races at Qatar? Like, why is it this track that is always giving us, like, incredible racing? And the answer is because it's free-flowing, there's no stop and go. So when you're overtaking people, like we saw with Frankie and Pecco, you can stay with someone. What Marc did is he once again drove the point home that he's him. And he said, can I be honest? Everyone was gagged. And he said, Lusail gives you a great show because of the strategy of the driver who's the fastest. Me, in parentheses. I'm paraphrasing. But he said, on Saturday, I knew I could push my tires and just clear the field and take the sprint. On Sunday, he knew he couldn't do that. And so what he did is he just, like, held up and was like, I'm just going to hang out, keep my foot in to be exactly where I need to be. And he said, yeah, the second Pecco overtook me towards, like, last third of the race, maybe 4 laps to go. He said, that's when the race started. And then he immediately dropped the hammer down and said, you know what, I'm going to have a little bit of a beef with Maverick Vinales just to keep things fun and interesting, and then I'm going to hit the road. So yes, he was playing with them.
He's got them all gagged and gooped. Like, at one point, he said he thought that it was Pedro Acosta, not Maverick Vinales, because usually Pedro's the faster KTM.
The way Marc was serving both cunt and also talent all weekend is an alarming combination in the best way.
I really think he would do wonders on RuPaul's Drag Race.
He would. I genuinely gave that man a margarita and he could lip sync for his life.
We've seen him death drop.
Yes. Many a time.
Many a time. He's got the fundamentals down.
He does. He has the lower body strength, if nothing else.
The ass.
It was such a fun weekend.
He knows how to put on a show.
And that was kind of the point of his comment on Sunday. He is one of, I think, the best MotoGP riders in the last.
Of all time.
Just in general.
Of all time.
I think this season will calcify that for everyone who actually watches the sport.
I agree.
Let's talk a little bit about Maverick Vinales, because I thought that was another great story of the day.
Yeah, he was there.
He was there. He clocked in for his one annual shift.
Of doing well.
And he said, I'm here. No one called the manager. I was not late. I'm clocking out on time, but I'm here now. And then he got fucked by tire pressure regs.
Them's the brakes.
Them's the brakes. I will say, I think he deserves all the kudos in the world for hauling that Tech 3 gas up onto the podium.
I agree.
And it makes sense that he got a tire pressure penalty, because there's no way his team ever thought that was going to happen.
No, he rode the shit out of that. Where did he qualify?
6th.
Yeah, that's insane to me.
There was no way anyone knew that was going to happen. But it does kind of speak to that thing of Maverick Vinales, when he has a bike he can work with, a track he doesn't hate, and the work ethic to manage those two things, which happens very rarely. He's a great rider. So then he ended up, I think, Maverick, ended
14.
up around 14th.
Yeah.
Which elevated Frankie Morbidelli to P3 and Pecco Bagnaia to P2.
Thus making Zoe's predictions correct.
Thanks.
Thank you, Maverick.
Speaking of Pecco, there's a lot about Pecco I want to talk about. First things first.
Isn't there always?
There always is. First things first. They released footage from the COTA weekend during this weekend. And this was footage of Pecco and Marc speaking after the end of the Sunday race. And it seems as though they didn't really know they were on camera. There's no guarantee of that, but it seems as though that's the case. And Pecco says to Marc, yeah, I had no idea why you were running at the beginning of the COTA GP, but you know, everything about this track and you're much better than me, so I just followed you. Which we knew, but why are you telling Marc that?
They're not friends.
It's also Pecco, why did you tell him that? Why did you tell him that? Why, do you ever meet someone who just can't stand up for themselves and you're like, please, for one split second, don't be a doormat? But yeah, it's you meet someone and you're just I don't understand how you just can't
stand
you don't
up
understand
straight.
The way you are speaking is not good for you.
Yeah. You have no cognizance of how damaging this conversation
has the potential to be. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's like when you're talking to your boss and you reveal just a smidge too much.
Right. A smidge too much about how this is just a job to you.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't.
Or you've been holding out on a skill.
Yes. That you will not be paid for. It just, and we've talked about this before with Pecco kind of last year. He basically told everybody and their brother that he's not going to race hard. And it's what are you doing? What are you doing? I think he's just really neurotic.
I mean, who among
he
us?
has to be, right?
Well, of course.
I will say, he had a really shit qualifying this weekend. He basically flung it in the gravel. He had a great recovery, ending the weekend in P2. That's a really solid race. He did what he had to do. He did get into a little bit of a tiff with Frankie Morbidelli, who was one of quite a few race leaders this weekend. The argument is, depending on who you ask, Frankie should have just let Pecco by because they're buddies, and because Pecco's the only one in the championship fight, and because Frankie's pace was dropping like a rock. But I think actually their fight on track was one of the most fun bits of the race, of many.
What is it with motorsport drivers not wanting to do their jobs of racing?
I truly have no idea, because this is what Marc gets villainized for, which is his job, which is racing.
Nobody wants to race anymore.
Nobody wants to race anymore. Can you believe?
What is with this?
I was thinking about it, of the argument of well, Frankie should have just let Pecco by because they're friends. He didn't have pace, and Pecco's the one in the title fight. And I was kind of reminds me of a certain argument that a certain Italian made in Sepang in the year 2015.
Now remind me, what happened at Sepang in 2015?
We don't have time to get into it.
We don't have time to get into it.
I'm just going to leave that there for food for thought.
We don't have time to unpack all of that.
No, but I thought it was funny.
I really like what you wrote in our notes, which said fratricide is back on the menu.
It is.
I love
Alex
it.
and Marc, we've been waiting for them to essentially make contact all season because both of them have been at the front every single weekend. It's almost happened once or twice, but this is the first time it's actually really happened. Marc's, some of the arrow on the back of his bike just got yanked right off. Alex was mostly fine because I think his wheel hit that part. And that's also where I think Marc is lying. There's more than one reason that he kind of didn't have a ton of pace at the beginning. I think he was figuring out how to adapt to what the bike was doing without his full aero setup.
I really like that there was this, brother on brother,
Familial.
this brotherly shove, to quote the Philadelphia Eagles, kind of thematically in line with Passover.
That is a great point.
It was Passover and very much like Ramesses and Moses, kind of jostling with their carriages like in The Prince of Egypt.
A great movie.
The best movie. It just felt very on brand.
Felt timely.
It felt timely. And they were in the desert. It was biblical.
Yeah. Honestly, very Cain and Abel of them too.
Very Cain and Abel.
We're pulling out all the classics this evening.
Moses and Aaron, another brother duo.
Yes, there was some beef with Alex and Marc at the beginning. And honestly, I think one of the funniest things about this whole weekend is Marc refused to talk about it. Here's a theory. Maybe I'm being a little bit of a crackpot conspiracy theorist. I think he was a little bit of a cunt the rest of the Sunday, press con, all of his other comments in Parc Ferme, to distract from everyone getting on his and Alex's case about things.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I truly wouldn't put it past him because normally he's not that much of a dick. The comment about Pedro Acosta and
that was
Maverick
really
Vinales,
out of
it was
left field.
Is he wrong? No.
No.
Is Marc the person who typically talks like that? Also no. And he said it 4 different times.
He was so just out of pocket for what?
I think it was to cover Alex because Alex also got into a beef with Digia. They had a crash. And Digia basically went nuclear after the race and was like, I can't believe he did this. He ruined my race, making an argument for harsher penalties for race-ruining incidents, which is an interesting argument for Digia to take because his whole point is that he had the pace to be on the podium and he had to rejoin in P20 and didn't really have a recovery after that. So did you have the pace or didn't you? I think Marc was kind of also covering for that, just in the overall being a cunt. He was within his rights to do so, and he clearly was enjoying the moment. But I do think there's a bit of truth to that. That's just my theory.
I wouldn't put it past him.
That basically, I think, covers the big stories. Sorry to literally everyone else. The big stories of the weekend with MotoGP. I think we have a week break.
We do.
Before we head to Jerez.
And that's from España.
España. I'm going to go with Jerez. That's just what I'm going to say.
All right. I'm going to say Jerez because I'm not going to play pretend that I can speak Spanish.
I mean, I definitely can't either. So 2 peas in a pod. So we'll see what's going to happen next time.
We will make our predictions next week for what happens in Jerez.
Let's keep trucking.
Let's keep on trucking. I think that brings us to the great wide world of motorsport.
It sure does. And there's actually a good amount to talk about.
There's a good amount to talk about. So much like MotoGP, F1 was also in the desert. They were in Bahrain. So much happened this weekend. Another really good race like MotoGP. I do want to start by saying, Lando Norris, shut the fuck up.
We say this all the time, and we can't stop saying it because he doesn't shut up.
Doesn't shut up. You have one bad qualifying. First of all, you're a pole merchant. You're a qualifying merchant. All you do is qualify well.
And then fumble it.
But you say you have one bad qualifying. You're like, I don't even know if I can drive. You know what? You keep saying it. I keep agreeing with you.
Why are you saying that?
Yeah, you can't drive. This weekend, you couldn't drive. You had a bad weekend. The only reason why you succeeded was because, 1, I think McLaren cheated, and 2, you have the fastest car on the grid. You had a bad weekend. You cannot drive this weekend. You could not overtake a car that was literally falling apart, and George was running using his feet Flintstone style. Like, you could not overtake anyone without going off. It was a disaster class for you. The announcers, who are usually choking on your dick, can't speak over how far your dick is down their throat. We're saying, yeah, this isn't his finest week of racecraft. That's how bad it was. He had this quote. It was the most annoying thing. He said this before the weekend, I think on Thursday. He said, I can go pretend I've got a killer instinct and act like a bit of a dick, but there are certain things I wouldn't do that other champions have done. And then he continues, I still believe I can be a world champion by being a nice guy. Number one, you fedora wearing incel motherfucker, you are not a nice guy.
No.
You are consistently a whiny little bitchy brat.
Correct.
You are not a nice guy. Who are you nice to? Who? You are a wealthy, whiny kid who's had his dad's silver spoon in his mouth his entire life. And when things don't go your way, you spit out your binky and have a tantrum every single time.
Every time.
Number two, guess what, buddy? You aren't going to be world champion with that attitude. You're going to get dog walked by Oscar Piastri.
Yeah. The only way, to me, Lando Norris is a world champion is because, one, he has one of the best cars on the grid, check. And two, he has a team that will do whatever they can to promote him versus his teammate, also check. So yes, I think there's a very real possibility Lando Norris is a world champion. It won't be because of who he is intrinsically.
The most unearned championship, I think, of all time would be the case.
I agree.
So that's just my little rant to kick things off. Shall we look at our predictions?
Yes, please.
I said P1 Lando, hat fumble king, P2 Max, if only, P3 Lewis, womp, fail king. I said Jack, but it wasn't. So good job, Jack.
We love that.
We love that. You said P1 Max, womp womp, P2 Lando, so close, P3 Lewis, womp womp, fail king Charles, which goes to show that your fail king reverse jinx continues to work.
And you know what? That's actually really fucking funny. So I'll take that as a win.
I would take it as a win.
Yeah.
I think that the big stories of this race were, number one, just that when you have space to race, racing happens. Not if you're Lando Norris, but if you're everyone else on the grid.
Yeah. I think it also speaks to, like, these cars should be smaller.
100%. I think that the penalty situation this weekend was there was quite a few 10-second penalties levied at some point. Lando Norris notably jump-started the race. Not jump-started fully, but he did.
He has a history of doing this.
Of parking and then rolling out of his box. He can't drive. What do you want me to say?
Enough said.
And then I think that the other two big stories were, one, if McLaren truly lets these guys race, Oscar Piastri will win every time. And two, oh my God, Max Verstappen is fed fucking up with Red Bull.
Yeah. I think that was the big thing for me this weekend, because we've always kind of known that that is probably what would happen if McLaren actually let the two of them race. It was a little more up in the air before this year, because Oscar has been a rookie and has been, getting himself up to speed and ironing out his issues, of which tire deg and tire management have famously been his biggest problem. I think Oscar is really coming into his own this year, which is great timing for him. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think of the two of them, Oscar has that dog in him. I just think he needs to actually put his foot down more. The Max thing, I think, is really telling, because Max has always kind of been private about the way he interacts with his team, the way he interacts with other drivers. But he's always kind of just been no, what I have to say, is between me and the team. Just know that we'll be speaking. That was not really the case this weekend.
They didn't even speak.
He bounced, which he does have a 9-month pregnant girlfriend at home. So I would also leave immediately after the race. But all the reports of the immediate kind of meeting between Horner, Marco, and a couple of other high people in the Red Bull organization, Max's manager chewing Helmut Marko the fuck out in public. Well, Helmut Marko saying the risk of Max leaving is big.
It's big, yeah.
I think it was a very scary weekend for the Red Bull entity.
Which, by the way, this is so funny to me still, because he still finished P6.
Oh, yes. And I think if nothing else, this was a weekend of Max finally getting very fed up with what has been going on behind the scenes and making it now a public issue. It is embarrassing. It is concerning. It is dangerous to the Red Bull project. And I would be very, very concerned if I'm the business arm of Red Bull right now. And I think that's where the pressure is now being exerted from. Because Max said, listen, I've taken this ball as far as I fucking can. It's y'all's turn. And he's now made this a public problem. And that, I think, will maybe get Red Bull somewhere in a better spot, like by the end of the season. Because I don't think Max is going to leave now. I think he's going to stick it out with Red Bull for at least another year and then decide to retire or move.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm firmly on this train that in 2026, at the end of the 2026 season, Fernando Alonso's contract with Aston Martin will be up. Aston Martin will make Max an offer he cannot refuse. They are really the only team on the grid with the money to pay him what he's worth, and Newey's there. So I think that Fernando becomes an ambassador in his little forever home for villainry, and Max switches over to Aston Martin, drives for them until 28, and then he's done.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think Red Bull has maybe a year to convince Max to stick around. Here's my thing about Max. He's incredibly grateful to Red Bull. He's incredibly connected to this team.
He's a very loyal person.
He is. And he said before, I want to retire with this team. Obviously, that doesn't make that true. And like, that doesn't mean it's going to happen that way. But I think Red Bull is very, very close to losing him if they haven't already. But I think that Max is the kind of person who will always give Red Bull a shot to make it work. But you only have so many chances to do that.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to talk about with this race weekend, the third biggest story of this race weekend was just technology being a mess. Bad. First of all, George's transponder stopped working, and that fucked everything up.
Which is crazy in the elite class of motorsport, in which technology is supposed to be like such a huge part of the sport.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Hit me.
But I did see someone say, it's really interesting that in the last few laps of the race, the two people in front of Lando Norris's car, their transponders started to fail. And also, we randomly found out at the end of the race that the McLaren group is owned by Bahrain.
Hold on. What?
You didn't hear Oscar's radio when his engineer said it's nice that we could finally win our second home race. And Oscar goes, yeah, it was great to bring one home for the team or whatever, because apparently McLaren's owned by Bahrain.
Okay, so I'd seen the conspiracy about the transponder and tech issues ahead of the McLarens. I did not see anything about the Bahrain of it all.
Oh, yeah. So in this time last year, in March 2024, and in March 2024, already McLaren's largest stakeholder, the Bahrain Fund, has taken full ownership of the McLaren Group, which oversees the sports car arm of the company and owns a majority stake in racing teams of the same name.
Okay, so not only do they own the company, but they also have majority stakes in all McLaren racing.
Yeah, and also this isn't just some Bahraini person.
No, it's a fund by the royal family, right?
It's Bahrain's sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah.
This is like if William owned Williams.
Which would actually be kind of cool.
That would actually be really cool, actually.
Interesting. An interesting confluence of events.
Very interesting. And then, what was that at the end of the race? Was that Zach Brown hugging Mohammed bin Suleiman? Enthusiastically, even? And also, just why haven't they been investigated yet for their clearly illegal rear wing?
It's embarrassing. That's all I have to say. It's embarrassing. I also want to give an honorable mention to the of it all.
This guy can't drive for shit.
Who has, I think...
Holy shit.
What is his head-to-head and teammate?
15-1.
Yep.
15-1.
Play it again.
This is what Daniel Ricciardo got crucified for?
It's sad and horrible and awful for Daniel and me. But it's so satisfying.
I saw some journalist that's probably in his pocket saying if it wasn't for those pesky penalties that he only got because the cars are too big and not the fact that he can't overtake without smashing into the side of someone like we've seen at literally every race, he would have been in P13. So it was a good race. He got 15 seconds worth of penalties because he can't overtake without smashing into the side of someone. That's not a good race.
And like the glazing to try and argue that P13 would have been a satisfying race.
True. Yeah, exactly.
P13. Okay. He's not a rookie.
It's just so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. And can I also just say, shout out to my beautiful baby capybara boy, Isaac Hadjar, for continuing to stunt on them hoes.
Exactly. So you're telling me P13 would have been satisfying for when Isaac Hadjar is like driving the wheels off that car.
It's so embarrassing. So that's pretty much it vis-a-vis Bahrain, but we are still in the Arabian subcontinent next week.
God, is it race week again from F1?
It is race week again. We are in Jeddah. So let's make our predictions. Would you like to go first?
Yes, I'm going to go first. I think in P1, we're going to get an Oscar Piastri masterclass. That's what I'm putting out into the universe. P2, I'm going to go a little bit more realistic, and I'm going to go Lando Norris because I think they're going to lock out the front row. And with street races, it's always really hard to actually have a ton of like changeover. And then for P3, I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc.
Excellent choices. Fail King?
Fail King, I am going to go with Fernando Alonso.
He's been having a rough go of it this season.
Yeah.
Really the worst performing rookie. Sad.
I know. I was really, I know everybody thinks Kimi is a shoo-in for Rookie of the Year, but
I
always had my money on Fernando.
So sad. Okay. I'm also going to go Oscar P1. P2, I'm going to go with Charles. P3, I'm going to go Lando.
Okay.
And Fail King, I'm going to go with Nico Hülkenberg. He's been having a rough go of it. Got disqualified last race. Not seeing any improvement.
Nico, watch out.
Put him up. I think that brings us to the grid as ... which is a point in the podcast for those uninitiated where we categorize a handful of riders and drivers from across the great wide world of motorsport. It's a person, place, thing, idea, concept. And I thought in honor of Passover, we could do the 10 plagues.
I love this idea. I'm so into it.
For those who are unawares, the 10 plagues are waters turned to blood, frogs,
just frogs,
gnats or lice, flies, livestock disease or like cattle disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and then the death of the firstborn son of the Egyptians. Would you like to go first?
Yes, I would. Of the plagues of Passover, I'm starting off strong. Marc Marquez is death of the firstborn.
Knew you were going to say that.
Obvious.
Couldn't agree more.
Is it death of the firstborn of himself? Is it death of the firstborn of Valentino's legacy? Is it anything? I don't know. But yes, the answer is yes.
Couldn't agree more.
Second, I'll be going with Jorge Martin as Darkness.
It's a good one. It's a very, very good one.
He's in the darkest era of his career right now. Like, he truly is.
Couldn't agree more. I think those are two excellent ones. For me, I will be going with Oscar Piastri and Kimi Antonelli. Oscar Piastri is frogs. He is, one, leapfrogging Lando Norris. Two, you know that clip from Jeopardy that the guy just goes, what are frogs? And the other guy goes, what are frogs? That gives
That's
big Oscar Piastri vibes to me. The third thing that I want to speak on is that there's one very old debate in Judaism. There's something called the Talmud, which is a collection of rabbinical arguments and like essays and thoughts on basically how to do Judaism. And it's just a bunch of old rabbis from the Middle Ages basically bickering with each other. There's this one rabbi from the Middle Ages, his name is Rashi, and he very helpfully points out that the Torah does not specify if it was frogs, plural.
Oh, so it could have just been one frog.
He thinks it was one big frog.
Like the Godzilla of frogs.
Yes.
Honestly, like, that's kind of a sick reading.
And this reading of something and also just the conceptualizing one big frog, very Oscar Piastri to me.
Oscar Piastri would read that as one big frog and then be confused why everyone else is saying frogs plural. Like, he would do that.
And then for Kimmy Antonelli, I'm going with Lice because he just got out of kindergarten last week.
And I'm not going to be ageist about it.
Am I wrong?
No, I think we nailed it.
I think we nailed it. Happy Passover, everyone.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of the podcast. Next week, we will go over the results from Jeddah and make our predictions for Jerez. Go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube. We're a real fun time. Make sure to follow, rate, subscribe, comment on the podcast, and let's keep chatting soon.
Hang out with you next time.
Bye.
Bye.